Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Ukraine, about what has happened, what is happening right now, and how the tech industry is coping with the situation in Ukraine right now. So a few words about myself. My name is Artem Petrenko. I'm responsible for the EMEA region at Sigma Software from the business development and operational perspective. I have 2 degrees in computer science, and one from the Ukrainian university, another one from the French university, and work in the team more than 20 years. So first of all, Ukraine is standing up against the Russian aggression for 130 days already, and it's really brave thing from the Ukrainian nation and soldiers, and we cannot be more grateful to everyone who's doing this for Ukraine. And we are representing Sigma Software, representing the tech industry in Ukraine, and we're going to speak a little bit how the tech industry is working in Ukraine and what is happening over there, and how we're going to, how it's influenced and how the war influenced the whole situation. So first of all, we get and got a lot of support and help from the government, from the Minister of Digitalization. It's very important to mention that before the war, there was an announced special tax regime in Ukraine called DIA Business. The idea was behind to make and simplify the way of working for the IT engineers and IT consultants. And right now, the Ministry of Digitalization put a lot of effort in the digitalization of the governmental services, and the goal to reach 100% by 2024 of the whole digitalization services from the government. And although Ukraine is already the first country where the digital passport is accepted by the authorities, so in reality you just need to carry your mobile phone and that's it. And it's a 4th in Europe where the driver license, the digital driver license works. So the government does a lot of digitalization projects and assignments for the citizens and make sure it's convenient to live and work in Ukraine. From the IT ecosystem, Sigma Software is a part of IT unions and IT organizations in Ukraine. There are estimated approximately 300,000 IT engineers, and the industry showed before the war 20-25% growth, and the revenue was quite impressive with around 3 billion US dollars. And in total, there are approximately 5,000 companies in Ukraine that are working within the software and the consultancy services. Of course, there are big companies, including Sigma Software, with more than 1,000 and 2,000 people, but there are a lot of other small players that the war influenced them quite much, and I will be speaking about it as well. So during the war, what has happened since February? In reality, welcome. In reality, what has happened during the war, the IT industry in Ukraine has been growing since then. And right now, estimated that during the 5 months of the 2022, it's approximately around $4 billion US dollars the revenue. So it's almost doubled, and double the revenue. At the same time, what was happening, it's about the threats and attacks from the Russians in the Ukrainian infrastructure. And we will be speaking about it when we talk about the banking system in Ukraine, and when we are going to talk about the details about the banking industry, because the first thing that they are attacking is their infrastructure, and banks, they are one of the infrastructure organizations. So right now, around 15,000 IT experts helping with the cybersecurity actions and activities in Ukraine to sustain and work. And despite the war, the business is still growing. On our example, we had more than 100 customers and no one actually stopped working with us. So we still keep growing and delivering the services from organization and manage to onboard new customers, which is really important. So it's approximately half of the market managed to gain new customers, new clients to the market. So the government does a lot of things related to the communication and talking to the different organizations and persons. One of the first things that has happened in February was about the Elon Musk and Starlink. It was super critical because no one knew how the war is going to be developed, what they're going to destroy, and so on. And losing the connection and connectivity to the world and within the countries is super crucial. So Elon Musk and Starlink, they allowed Ukraine to employ the technology of Starlink and use it more or less free of charge and deliver and enable the technology for the Ukrainian market. And actually, it was available also for the businesses. So in our case, we had around 700 people, 800 people in Kharkiv, which is like 30 kilometers to the Russian border. The majority of them, they moved to the west part of Ukraine in the different hotels and so on. And of course, the local infrastructure was not adapted to sustain that pressure and load. And we used Starlinks. So we also talked to the Starlinks. We used the technology, we tested, and it was a perfect channel for the mountain areas and other places where the people were living and hiding from the war. So, the government, of course, supported with the army, where we have around 300,000 people. So the tech business is also investing a lot. You can see the different numbers and messages on the slide, but the idea is that pretty much, actually, I don't know no one who is not helping the army, who is not dedicating either funds or technologies or time or something else, investing in the army and finding and helping the people. In Ukraine, it's already a lot of startups or entrepreneurs who were found in different organizations and companies before. Right now, scaling up the startups to support the government. So the idea is it's anti-drones machines where you can shoot and kill basically the drones. And there are a lot of other technologies related to the radio control and other things. One of the examples, what has happened in Ukraine also, is when people, the guy in the photo, he's quite famous, a Ukrainian volunteer and TV star. And he announced the challenge to collect the money for 3 Bayraktar. Bayraktar is a drone, a self-driving drone that can carry missiles and hit the enemies for 24 hours straight. So it's a really crucial weapon for Ukraine because you can achieve a lot. So basically, Ukrainians, they managed to collect $20 million within just 3 days. So it's like $20 million in 3 days. It's super fast, and it shows the dedication of the whole country to support the army. But the thing is that the Bayraktar, the company, is a Turkish company that produced these drones. They actually refused to take the money. So now the money will go to the funds and the people who are struggling in Ukraine, but they will provide these 3 drones free of charge. So it's really important to feel this support from all the countries. Now I will be speaking a bit about the Sigma Software, the company I represent, what we are doing and how we are working within the war, what is happening over there. So first of all, Sigma is a part of Swedish IT consultancy company called Sigma, so Sigma Software. And this Sigma unites around 6,000 people, was established here by the famous entrepreneur Dan Olofsson. But further on, I will be speaking about our company. Within this ecosystem, we have almost 2,000 people in Ukraine. In May this year, we turned 20, so we started back in 2002. Now the majority, these 15 cities and countries, they were true before the war, but now we have probably our employees all over the world. So quite, and what, of course, we heard a lot of stories and warnings from all the authorities, Western authorities and so on, but we actually were not believe that there is going to be the full-scale war. So all the management, all the employees and so on, they were located in Ukraine. No one believed that this will happen. And we just, it was like snow during the summer, completely unexpected. However, we were prepared. And the first thing was what and how we were prepared. So the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, it starts back in 2014 when they annexed Crimea and then started the war in Donbass. And for us back then, 8 years ago, it was like also a thunderstorm. We were not expecting this from Russia, but at the same time, we were not expecting it from the company sustainability and the business perspective. So we were like thinking, okay, then and since we work with like big companies like Volvo and others, we were like, okay, we probably need to have the BCP and business continuity plan. And so we developed the BCP back in 2014. We have invested a lot in the infrastructure. We moved the whole infrastructure out of Ukraine. We invested in the security systems, which allowed us to work remotely from any part of the world. And actually, this BCP was tested by COVID. So it was exactly the same. People were, the only difference with the war that the cities are not bombed, but you still cannot go to the office, you still cannot be on site, you still need to perform the work within the limitations. And our BCP plan worked. But then pandemic were going down and so on, people returned back to the offices. And the first signals were started back in 2021 in November, and we started testing our BCP plan. And testing, informing our employees and consultants what is going on, how we're going to react, what is the plan. And in reality, the plan didn't work. But the planning and the mechanism and the scenarios that we were testing, they actually worked very well. So because of that, we were able to evacuate almost 3,000 people. And it's not only our employees, it's the families, pets, friends, everyone who were required to be evacuated from the east part of Ukraine. And after 4 days of the war, so the war started on Thursday. On Monday, we were operating on 73%. And on a few weeks later, we were more than 90 up to 100% in operations. And actually, we're not just surviving. The company is growing. We have hired more than 100 people already since the beginning of the war in many different locations. It's actually 60-40. 60% hired in Ukraine and 40% hired in other countries around the world, mainly in Europe and East Europe, like Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, and other countries. And we are growing in Ukraine. Since we're hiring new people, we need new places, and our old office is destroyed. We expanded the number of locations in the west part of Ukraine. But basically, the demand didn't go down. The market still needs high competence and quality services. And we expect this is going to be growing further as well. During the whole situation, we were actively communicating to the people and to the medias. So we had only in Sweden 56 articles about what is going on in Ukraine, how the people are feeling. There were journalists that were flying to Ukraine and whom we were supporting and showing the actual places where the Russians were and how what has happened. So it's really important to keep this level of information and communication with the people and with the countries, but it's only in Sweden. And now I would like to pass the word to my colleague Hanna, who will be speaking about the financial industry and how the fintech and the banking sustain the whole conflict. Yeah, the word is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And when I'm talking about banking, I believe that it is quite, let's say, interesting that that experience that Ukraine has just now. Banking, it is something that is suffering immediately after such big stress is happening. And there are lots of very interesting cases about that, and I'm going to share with you. So it's a very short, my story in the professional life, but this story is actually reflecting and saying a lot about the Ukraine history. In 2004, I moved to Kiev and started my professional life in telco company. And actually, that year and that week when I moved to Kiev, the Orange Revolution started. And then in 2008, I decided to change my telco company to banking. And immediately, actually in 3 weeks, the financial crisis happened. Then in 2015, I was a manager of a quite big call center of customer service in one of the biggest Ukrainian bank, and this call center was in Donetsk. And the bank actually was from the Donetsk, and the war started in 2014, and there I had to evacuate people, care about them, and we did a big project to relocate our servers and all the stuff, and it was a big challenge for the company and for the industry actually also. Then I was a manager of a bank's merging project, and it is about the optimizing the costs. Our industry were talking about how to spend less but get some money from the customers, and it was quite difficult during these first years of the war in the Donbas region. And starting from 2017, lots of talks about the digitalization appeared. So many banks did some kind of a digital transformation, some neobanks appeared, some fintechs appeared, and it was a time when IT and all stuff related with something with the digital started to grow, and it was a very good and interesting period for me also. I was managing lots of interesting projects like a digital transformation, etc. 2021 was the best year ever, I guess. Everyone was so optimistic about the Ukrainian future. Lots of government services were digitalized, as Artem already mentioned. IT industry is growing. Banking industry, it was the best year for the whole history. The biggest amounts of in P&L, etc. So it was a really good year. And then in February, I'm in Poland and trying to get some cash in the ATM, and all this stuff, all this nice growing finished immediately. But even today, I have cards with the greenness, and actually I can use it. I can make payments, and lots of Ukrainians still are able to use banking services these days. And my story is why it is like this, and what did they do to support the country with this important stuff. And as I already mentioned, normally it's needed only a few days for banking industry just to actually to close after such big stress that is happening. And this is the boarding of our head of central bank, and he told that normally most of the countries facing the war, they just finish in banking in a few days. In our case, it is more than 100 days, and the industry still operates. And why we are talking about that is also because Sigma is not only about the high quality engineering, but also about a kind of a passion to the fintech. We did and have a lot of very interesting projects about the fintech that are quite innovative, and it is about the digital banking, of course, blockchain, cybersecurity, etc. The idea is that we are going deeply in the industry and try to do our best to understand the industry for to be able to deliver high quality services, and our expertise is giving us some interesting stories with the customers. So the banking in Ukraine, a few slides to show what was at the very beginning. We had 41 million people in Ukraine before the war starts. We had almost 70 banks in Ukraine, and 10 of them are with foreign banks, and the industry was quite digitalized, not like in Sweden, but non-cash payments were more than half, actually almost 60% of the payments were made non-cash. And these figures were growing, the revenue is growing, and number of fintechs also was quite big, 200, not so big as here in Sweden. Sweden has, I know, 500 fintechs, but still Ukraine demonstrated quite having this 300,000 IT people in Ukraine. It was a good support for fintech companies to grow because there are a lot of engineering and technical knowledges inside the country. And part of this, half of these fintech companies, they were operating in Ukraine, and half deliver some services outside of the country. So 24th of February happened, and of course some activities were even before. As Artem already mentioned, they started these aggressive actions had started with the cybersecurity attacks. And some figures from the Ministry of Digital Transformation that at the beginning, for that part of January and February, more than 3,000 DDoS attacks were made. And mostly the focus was on the banks and government resources. And banks, they did a very good job. They were they could deal with these cyber attacks. This is the first. And actually the customers didn't feel that a lot. So all infrastructure were working more or less proper way. And one more thing that they did, they start talk to people. They explained what is happening, why it is happening, if they suffered or some services could not be delivered just now. They were informed that it is because of these attacks, and they are doing their best. And also all the industry were I know that the biggest banks and the government and National Bank of Ukraine, they had a joint team to communicate, to meet, and to support each other, to support when these attacks were happening. So it was a really team job to deal with these challenges. And when the 24th of February happened, we know that how that happened. And of course, for instance, what I see in the window, that many people are trying to take some cash from the ATMs to get some money, just to be more sure that they will have something to pay. Of course, everyone thought that there will be some problems with the cards, they could not pay, etc. then many people start to like moving between the cities. Some left the country and start to take money from the ATMs outside of the country, and that number of transactions grow significantly, and of course all that is like, we can name it as a panic, and that panic is something very bad for the financial industry, and of course some reaction had to be made, and that reaction was very immediate. After the war started, in a few hours, the National Bank delivered first actions about that, about just to calm down a little bit this panic situation. Of course, there was on the first step, there were some limitations. First of all, the exchange rate of hryvnia was fixed. That is quite logical, but it is good that this action was made very, very fast. Also, it was prohibited to buy foreign currency, and there were some limitations of cash withdrawal. But there were no limitations for deposits. So if someone wanted to take it back, he could do that. And also, in a few days, the government, actually National Bank of Ukraine, informed that not partially, but full amount of deposit are guaranteed. And that, like, all banks reported that like calmed down people significantly, this kind of communication and decision. On the second stage, they tried to adapt banking services to the situation. For instance, people were trying to give some cash, it was obvious, so they give them a possibility to take cash not only in the ATMs but in the retail stores. So they made some technology changes, and they could do that without searching some ATMs, etc. Also, they agreed with the MasterCard and Visa to make zero commission for the payments by card. So for all participants of the market, also for the shops, it was much more efficient and more safe to take payments through cards. So no need to make some collection of the cash, moving it to the bank, it is dangerous, etc. So digital payments were supported significantly, and people day by day they just calm down and start to use their payment tools, digital payment tools. They of course did some loan repayment holidays for people, and also there was a big job done with the international banks, and also with Poland. They agreed with the National Bank of Poland to exchange, to give a possibility to people to change hryvnias to Polish currency, and that also helped a lot of people just left the country with their hryvnias and could not do anything with it outside the country. So they did lots of this kind of negotiations, and that was successful. And one thing that is, I guess, almost all of us, all people outside of Ukraine, see how the government communicate to people. It is really a very bright case and a very efficient how it was done, and now also, and the same was for all financial institutions. All of them were talking to people, communicating through Facebook, through their websites. The National Bank made special pages, very simple language, explaining people what to do in which situation, why not. There is no sense to panic, etc. So the communication was really good, and they use actually any possible channel, what is very important. the businesses. So all that was mostly about the people, about the individuals, but the businesses suffered significantly from the very beginning. First few weeks, only 20% of businesses were working. Now, of course, it is not like this. Businesses started to recover in a few weeks after the war started. Someone could not, someone succeeded, but during the first few weeks, 20% of businesses were working. All other ones just shut down. Mostly that happened because of the logistic problems, what is obvious, and some time was needed to adapt to all these changes, and actually this adapting is happening very often because the situation is changing, and the logistic also should change all the time. And of course, business activity has fallen sharply, and it was all these activities, war activities, were the biggest part of big parts of Ukraine. So some reactions also and some actions also were taken regarding the businesses. That period of time, the focus was on agricultural businesses. It is one of the biggest industry that delivers some US dollars to the country. It is one top three of exporter in the country, and it was important to support them because that period, the farmers started sowing, so they needed some financial support to start this process. That period of time, a big amount of money were the banks were lending with 0%, some figures like 2.3 billion hryvnias for agriculture company, and then plus 14 billion hryvnias were expected in the next few months, and they did a big job to support this very important industry for Ukraine. All that was mostly about the individuals and business, about the competitors, regulations, etc. All that stuff which is outside of the company. But the challenge related with the war is not only about some panic on the market, but also about some panic inside the company, because there are also people who are don't know what to do, where to go, and there are lots of the companies and legal entities had to solve lots of things, not only about the customers of the bank or the fintech, but also about the people, employees, infrastructure, etc. Lots of companies, as already Artem told, had BCB plans, especially banks, and that is because of the 2014, because of that first aggressive actions from Russia, and that period of time, lots of banks had to relocate some part of their business, and they were well prepared. Some of them had emergency fund. Lots of banks are still not firing, not optimizing their the number of people inside the company, employees. I mean, they have funds to support people this period of time. Of course, it depends how much money do they have in this emergency fund, but still they have it, and that supports a lot people during the relocation and evacuation, etc. Lots of processes were inside the companies that it was the process was about the backuping experts in the company. If someone is not reachable just now, someone else did do the job, and actually this backup procedure worked quite well for lots of them, and they reported publicly that this approach helps them to support business continuity. Of course, remote working place, it is I'm told that COVID trained us very well. And of course, something like strong willingness to work, it is about Ukrainians, that these people can work from anywhere in any condition. And they're very focused, and we are very focused on doing our job. And not caring about all other stuff. And of course, with preparation, I've shown you my experience and that each few years something happened in Ukraine and help us to train our muscles for this kind of stress. And branches and ATMs, they did like immediately decentralized decision if there is, to open or not to open the branch, for instance. So the people there who are working in this branch, they were decided themselves if it is good idea, if it is safe to open the branch that moment. So that was a project use, and still the biggest part of the bank's branches are working in that region that are more or less safe, so they didn't stop to operate. And the digital channels and infrastructure, there was a very good job done by the government, like a joint team of the government banks and the National Bank of Ukraine. They decided to let the banks to use cloud services. So they just adopted that law immediately, very, very fast, and lots of banks started migration of their infrastructure to cloud services like AWS and Azure, etc. And because of that, almost all banks could support their digital channels and infrastructure properly. So that is the reason why all of us can use mobile applications, make some transfers or make some payments through the cards. And few cases, like inspiring banking, is one of the biggest, actually the biggest digital bank of Ukraine with 6 million customers. They did a very bright work. On Artem's slides, there was example about them that they asked people to, like volunteers, to grab some money, and they for the few days, there was a story about the Bayraktar, but also the bank gathered $2 million, and people from 100 countries funded some parts of this amount. So they are quite, like these days they're global, because all these 6 millions of their customers looks like they went outside of the Ukraine. But they did a big job with these like screens on the cards. This is a real photo of people. This is real lady. She were evacuating dogs from the Irpin, and some photos were made, and they gathered all these all the photos that shows how Ukrainians are brave, and made special cards like the screens on the cards with these photos, and that is, I guess, inspiring people a lot. And that one more case from the mobile application. So banking can be like something that inspiring not only about the transaction. And now, Artem, I propose to proceed with some cases about the charity that are in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. So, thank you, Anna. Really interesting overview of the whole situation. So, when everything started, we were, let's put it like this, we were quite active in the different communities since the beginning. But when the war started, we understood the importance and the need of the uniting together on the different levels to accomplish different type of the missions. And these unions or different organizations usually help to achieve certain different business goals that, or just help people actually without specific people with the specific skills and needs. And here will be a few examples of those communities that we arranged, joined, or lead since the war started. So first of all, we understood that there is a huge community of people who moved out from Ukraine to other countries, and there is a very basic and simple question: okay, where to live, and how to make sure that the people are finding the place to live. Of course, we should rely on Migrationsverket in Sweden and other things, but there are a lot of exceptions, and the people are stressed; they don't know what to do, and so on. So we have developed a very simple yet efficient platform that helps to combine the property owners and the Ukrainians who moved out due to the war. So the platform called Swedes for Ukraine, if you Google it, or just swedesforukraine.se, that's basically the platform where free of charge everyone can post a request for the residents or the need to leave, and propose the housing. Summer houses, they were super empty during the spring, and there are a lot of interactions found. So we very quickly launched this in order to help people, the Swedes to be able to help Ukrainians, and Ukrainians to be able to request this help from them. Then, from the business perspective, I mentioned that in Ukraine it's around 5,000 different IT companies. And none of them, they are super big. There are a lot of small companies with 30, 50, 100 people together. And of course, the majority of them, they are locked in Ukraine. They don't have the ability to travel. They just locked in. And therefore, the business can decline a little bit. And in order to prevent it, we jointly formed Ukraine Tech Network. It's a union of the companies, or network of the companies in Ukraine, which is led by Sigma Software and Ideasoft, and uniting other companies around with the available competence, skills, and we can find pretty much any range of the competence within those smaller organizations and businesses. And the idea is to both help to keep growing the Ukrainian IT community and services towards the Western customers and other customers. Another initiative, Dan Olofsson, the founder of Sigma Software and many other companies, he started the charity foundation called Star for Life, with the mission of helping different regions in Africa, in other countries. And we have launched this Start for Life in Ukraine to help kids to educate them better, to bring more technology into their education. And right now we're already starting the first educational project in Mukachevo. It's a small city in Ukraine where we will educate the first bunch of the kids and help them along. Another project that we have done is for the charity organization. It's called Voice of Children. So basically the idea is to provide the psychology support to the kids and those people who were affected by the war and demands that type of the support. And in order to do it, we have developed a chatbot of the latest technologies to support the communication flows between those who need the help and those who can provide the help to the donors. Another chatbot is actually very crucial because I'm originally from Kharkiv. It's a city east part of Ukraine, 30 kilometers to the Russian border. And the Russians, they are bombing the city every day. Every day 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 rockets and missiles. They shot from the Russian border mainly to hit the Kharkiv and destroy the civilian objects. And right now, around 30% of the civilian objects and property is destroyed in Kharkiv. So it's really, massive. In Kharkiv, there were 1.5 million people living there, approximately, maybe more. But we can imagine that amount of people, and 30%, they left out without the buildings and the civilians and so on. So we have developed the chatbot in collaboration with the local government and municipality to obtain the data and to provide this data to the citizen or people who are living in Kharkiv to request the state of their property. If it exists, if it's not exist, if it's destroyed, if the windows are in place, and so on and so forth. So we have, since 4 days, you can see that around 50,000 people use this type of technology to get the understanding about their own property and facility. And this is very crucial because you can imagine the call center right now, the type of the interaction. Without the digitalization and automation, it's simply not possible to serve these type of the critical events and provide this information targetedly to those who need it. And so we implemented some anti-fraud mechanism also here, and so on and so forth. But these are the projects that shows how we're contributing to the different type of the communities. One of the communities, since the majority of the people who moved out from Ukraine, these are the women and girls and like mainly women because they're allowed to go, and women with kids. And we started the family engineering project where we support the female communities from the software development perspective and IT perspective, and launching different events and helping them to find the new assignments, promote their skills, and do a lot of other things to be on the top of the curve related to the IT industry. And here, probably the last few words about the Swedish initiative. Hanna was one of the founders.
Yeah, and it's important that the companies like Sigma are also supporting some people who have different initiatives. So it was my case. I moved to Sweden and met some people here who just advised to have some community with tech people, Fintech or tech people. And I thought this a little bit strange. I don't have too much time. I'm stressed, etc. But then decided to try, and it was a big surprise how many people are needed this kind of communication. So in a 1 or 2 days, with my colleagues, we arranged tech Ukrainian community, and it's quite niche. It is for more tech people, and these people will just have some meetups and try to understand what do they need from the professional perspective and try to support them. And for me, the biggest surprise is that many companies and institutions decided to be the part of this initiative. And also the embassy, Polish embassy, Ukrainian embassy, some companies like Sigma, some companies and communities, Vasa, it is a Polish community, Nordic here with us, and also supports a lot us. So, and the number of these brands are growing, and it is really great that, and some of them are coming with proposing some hosting or proposing some educational stuff, etc. And I believe that in this situation, what we see, just to summarize, the communities part and charity, very big changes were happened with the Ukrainians. Lots of voluntaries, like entities or people appeared, and lots of people start to create this kind of stuff. And that, I believe that helps a lot, and it is very good to proceed like that, because the interest to Ukraine will go down. We understand that people cannot talk too much and for a long time about something that's so stressful. But it is important not to forget about that and proceed through these kind of organizations or communities. And I'm happy to be the part of that, and I'm sure that all these companies will be with us, and some more companies will join.
Yeah, so actually some takeovers from the whole of our experience and the whole speech that we have made today. So, of course, the preparation is super crucial, and of course that sometimes the plans they don't work, but the planning is essential to make sure that all the things they're taken out and can be implemented. Infrastructure is super crucial, and by infrastructure we can mean a lot of things, including the services in the banking industry, the communication like for the citizens, or many other things related to the infrastructure and smart architecture, smart solutions in terms of the infrastructure. They are really, really crucial. Cybersecurity, one of the cornerstones, and right now we see a lot of demand is growing, and Sigma Software is working quite heavily in the domain of cybersecurity, providing the services within the cybersecurity, making sure that it's protected and it will cost more or much to break something. The communities and the mental health of the people usually help to sustain the pressure and sustain the whole thing that is going on and the work, and that's one of the reasons why we are supporting all these other communities. And of course, speed of action. I mean, we didn't have time to say, hey, stop for a bit. We just need to think or do something else. It was immediate actions, decisions. People take their responsibilities and volunteering to help within the businesses as well. It's not only related to the military, because we, in our case, when we were moving almost 3,000 people from east to west, it's not that easy, and it's not that one person can do it. We had in the team around 50 people who were like 24/7 available, coordinated, managing. So the culture within the companies and should allow people to contribute with their ideas, with the offers, with the solutions, saying, hey, I can do this, I can do that, and so on and so forth. So overall, the whole situation is really tough, but I really believe that we're going to win and keep doing the business. And the best support that we can do right now, or we can get right now, a part of this, just the donations and so on, is to keep doing the business with Ukraine, with Sigma Software, and with other companies on the market, and keep doing the operations. That will keep up the level, and that will keep up the country. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for listening, and I think that was the last slide for today. If you have any questions or anything else, just let's discuss. If not, then thank you for coming. Yes.
I have a question to Hanna. You're having this initiative of Fintech Program, and I wonder if there are a lot of displaced Ukrainians who are coming to those meetups, and what are the biggest obstacles for those who would like to get a job here in Sweden? What are those?
Normally, in average, we have for the meetups, we have kind of 40 registrations, and something like 25 people are coming physically. And these people, mostly women, they are not, very often they are not developers, they are more like project managers, business analysts, or people who are working in like HR in IT, PR in IT, etc. And lots of them, there are two scenarios. First, they're still working for a Ukrainian company and thinking how long they can do that, and thinking to change the work, the job. That is obvious. And the second is the people who already were fired or something. Of course, the first question they ask how to find a job here, and actually they are not well prepared for that at all. So they don't know, very often they don't know that LinkedIn is important, that what to do with the cities, etc. So one of our first meetup, actually the second meetup, we just invite a speaker from agency, HR agency, to explain the operational part, how to search for the job. And it was a really good feedback from them. It was something very, very useful. So now we are thinking about trying to educate them more about how to find a job. And the second, some educational programs definitely are needed. Not all of them have enough knowledge about project management. Sometimes the English can be a challenge. Sometimes just deeper knowledge, more mature knowledge is in the sphere they're working in.
Thank you. Other questions?
And then maybe also I will. We are thinking. I didn't tell it, but we are thinking about the mentorship program. I guess it is something that's really good to work, like to have some people on the company side or just individuals who are local or who are already here for a long time, and each mentor can find one to mentoree, I don't know how to say, and support with these personal advices or sometimes networking, etc. So this is also the tool that is our next step, and we're expecting that Polish and Ukrainian embassies support us with all this stuff just for a good launch of this initiative and to get the company's support, because this definitely that will be very good tool for this ladies.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Connected to Swedish IT industry, do you work for Swedish IT industry, also bank industry, or is it focused on?
No. Sigma Software is a consulting company, and 99% of our customers they are in outside of Ukraine. So we work with companies like Volvo here in Scandinavian Airlines and many other companies in Sweden, in the US, in Germany, and so on. And related to the connections here, of course, we are building these connections, and it takes some time to build it up. For example, Hanna joined the Fintech Week that was in Stockholm back in, I think it was March. In March. So made a speech over there related to the Fintech directions and so on. So we're building this relations with the communities. We are part of some of them here in Sweden, but also there are so many others. So it's really hard to right now find the right focus. But sooner or later, especially with the TalkTech initiative, there should be more and more connections to the different IT communities here in Sweden. That's the idea. And overall, we have Sigma has very many engineers here in Sweden, but also not only in Sweden. We have a lot of collaboration with our companies. So that's yes, please.
I have a question. You have a lot of your employees. You said that they're working kind of distributed in different places here.
Yes.
And when you work in an office, you could meet up and have more informal meetings to connect and social in the company there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you worked anything about how to deal with that when you have this distributed organization, when people sit in their own homes and working so on?
That's a very good question, and that's the reality we are living since 2002, since the inception of the company, because we always were working from Ukraine. I mean, of course, we had consultants in Poland, in other countries, but the idea was always to be able to deliver the services from Ukraine to other customers worldwide, accumulate the different technological skills and knowledge about the technology, but also the domain and business knowledge, like fintech, for example, or other industries like media and advertisement and so on. Since 2002, we were working remotely. So we had teams sitting in Ukraine, and our customers they were sitting in Europe, in Sweden, for example, in Stockholm. And we had a lot of, so we gained a lot of experience and managed to build up the processes which helps us to efficiently work remotely. And then we started, before the pandemic actually, a lot of our customers, they were saying, or other customers, they're saying, yeah, we want everyone to be sitting in the same room. Yeah, they're sitting in the same room, but you are not sitting anywhere in the same room. They have teams distributed between the locations. So we prefer to form out the teams and delivery squads and units, not based on the location where the person is, but based on the competence and based on the specific need for that specific customer, how we can contribute with the competence. So over the 20 years, we have accumulated this experience. And when the pandemic started, for us, it was like, okay, we are not going to the office, we're working remotely. So it's a set of steps and procedures and processes, how to track the efficiency, how to ensure, how to keep up the motivated people, how to drink beer over Skype or Zoom or Teams, doesn't matter, and how to have fun together despite the physical location. So that's, and now when it's a war, it's still distributed with just the difference. Sometimes people are in the different countries. And from that perspective, if we see that there are more than 10 people in the specific country, we open up the office. So we open up the office in Czech Republic. We had one office in Warsaw before the war. Now we have 4 offices in Wrocław, Gdańsk, Krakow, and one more office in Warsaw. So it doesn't mean that we need to stop. We keep building the comfortable facilities for our employees, but still, we can work remotely. That's how it works.
I want to add some emotion to this approach. As far as in Sigma, past 2 years, but before 15 years in baking. But you know, in baking it is more. It's not about it's more about the office starting at 9 till 6 p.m. So it's like very strict, etc. So for me, it was a challenge. Totally, I saw first time I saw people from my team in 1 year after our cooperation. But Sigma has not only this kind of processes and approach that well, from operational perspective works very well, but it also gives a grandson emotions. Like it was a big surprise for me. Like from time to time, I'm receiving some gifts from my company, like a small presents. Nice, I don't know, cap or nice T-shirt or something. And that gives because of some reasons, sometimes not because of some reasons. And all these small details helps, you know, to feel yourself like onboarded to the company, I mean, to be the part of the company, of the community, of the brand, etc. So there are really big job is done to add this kind of relationship between people who are everywhere. These days they're in whole Europe, not only in Ukraine now. I don't know how many countries are in actually, yes. But each of us feels this support because of these small details that are very important.
Thank you.